Hello and welcome to Minds on Mushrooms. I'm your host, Maggie Kirkwood. Thanks for joining. I am so excited today. I am sitting here with Sauce B, who is a mushroom lover.
Yes.
He's also quite popular on YouTube. The name of your channel is Mushroom Sauce TV.
Yes.
We'll be sure to put a link to that so you can check him out. But I thought it would be a really good idea to have you on Minds on Mushrooms. I believe we ran into each other at the comedy show,
Yep.
The Dose.
Yep.
That was back in February.
Yes.
So I think we had just a brief time to talk. And from what I gathered, you are a mushroom lover, believer, and you've kind of dedicated a big portion of your life to sharing the mushroom magic. Is that true?
That is very true. Yeah, we met that day, and it was a great show. It was a good time. I'm glad we actually met. But before we begin, I actually brought you a gift.
Oh, what? This is a first.
Yes, I brought you a gift for you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm excited. Oh wow. My own mushroom sauce t-shirt.
Yes.
Whoa.
So that's first of many merch we're going to be coming out with here pretty soon. But I just wanted to just bring that for you. Thank you for having me on this show.
Goodness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate it.
I'm glad we finally made time to make this work.
Yes.
I think it's pretty funny. You know, everybody has a reason why they've found mushrooms, whether it's, you know, everybody's story is so crazy is what I'm trying to say. So I'd like to just kind of dig right in there.
Okay.
Let's start, you know, tell us a little about where you're from and kind of exactly how you found yourself to be where you are today. And I will probably ask some questions along the way.
Oh, man.
Where would you like to start?
So I'll tell you a little, just a brief background about who I am, where I'm from. I'm Sauce B. I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Okay.
I was the first son in my family born here in America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting upbringing. But I grew up in an upbringing where drugs are frowned upon, right? You know, and I grew up in the era of DARE program, Just Say No, all that kind of thing. So for me, I never saw myself ever to be a drug user or of any kind. As a matter of fact, my first time I ever smoked weed was my sophomore year of college.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
You're a good boy.
Yeah, I was a good boy. No, for sure. And then, so how I got into this space was I was living out in the New York, New Jersey area at the time.
Okay.
So during the pandemic time, and I was running multiple businesses, one in which, because of the shutdown, remember at that time period, New York, New Jersey was like the epicenter
of the
pandemic. Right. So we had this shutdown, we had military involvement, you had a curfew.
Yes.
And all that time. Did you guys experience that in Minnesota?
You know, I'm going to say here in Minneapolis, we did have curfew.
Okay.
And, you know, of course, George Floyd and the riots.
Yep.
So it was a very traumatic time, but I do remember, I mean, New York, it was so sad watching, you know, the numbers each day. And then you were on curfew or lockdown for extended days, weeks.
Man, it was damn near like months because, you know, because we're so highly populated up there, they wanted to make sure that we weren't spreading the COVID and things of that nature. But during that time period, you know, I had one of my businesses was a vending machine company.
Oh, okay.
And I had vending machines in various different sites, one of which was in a mall, a large mall there.
Okay.
And then I had them at previous. So when the shutdown happened, the lockdown happened at the mall. People weren't allowed to, you know, shelter in place. No one was allowed to even go to work in other areas of where my vending machines was. So you talk about, I spent thousands upon thousands of dollars on product that now went to waste because the expiration date.
Oh man, yeah.
So you know, my whole world stopped. I was going through a depressive state at that time. You know, I was losing my business.
Yep.
And so one day, a friend of mine who resided in New Jersey at the time asked me to go to a party in Brooklyn.
Okay.
What kind of party was this in Brooklyn during a pandemic? So we go to the party. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything. So we walk in. It was a brownstone in Brooklyn, and I walk in. There was various vendors, like
Okay.
420. I call it 420 vendors for the sake of the
Sure.
for the video. 420
Yeah.
vendors. They were there, and they were selling different products, whether it be gummies or cookies or brownies, whatever they were selling.
Yeah.
And I walk in. Mind you, this is the majority of the people there were people who looked like myself, Hispanics, stuff like that. What the coolest thing about it was there was a chef that was making soul food with 420 stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Yep.
So like they were making, they were, I don't know how they did it. They frying the chicken and it was with marijuana products and stuff like that. And
With the medicine.
yeah, with the medicine,
With the medicine.
with the medicine. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And so as I begin to walk to the back, there was a band playing, and I'm a fan of music, so I'm hearing the band. I was like, okay, this is pretty dope.
Yeah.
And there was a mysterious looking white girl that was standing in the back of
Love it.
She was one of those. She was like, she couldn't be more out of place than me at a KKK rally.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so she was wearing a cowboy hat, and she was standing there, and she comes up to us, and I'm like, she said, "Would you like to buy some of my chocolates?" I was like, "No, I'm good. I don't smoke weed. I don't do none of
Yeah.
that." But my boy was like, "Man, what kind of chocolates are those?" He's like, "Yeah." She was like, "Mushroom chocolates." I said, "Mushroom?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Nah, I've never done that. I'm good."
Yep.
And my brother was like, "Try it.
Okay.
Trust me, try it. It's dope." And so he bought it, brought me a piece, and I tried it. That was the best. That was the moment that changed the rest of my life.
Oh my God. I want to hear everything.
Yeah. So, so from that moment on, like that night was amazing. Like, it made me release a lot of my inhibitions and the things that I was going through at that time period, losing of my business, going through what I was going through in my marriage at the time. None of us were happy. And from there, I decided to just go ahead and look into what's going on with this mushroom stuff.
Right.
You know, I want to kind of dig deep and find out what it is about this thing that made me feel so good. I started doing research, and I saw that Johns Hopkins Hospital were doing extensive research
Yep.
for decades. And I was like, they're looking to legalize it. And so I started looking more into it. And from there, I was like, "Where can I get more of this?" And the girl, for whatever reason, I've lost contact with the girl.
Oh no. Yeah.
And I was like, "How can I find it?" So I'm looking everywhere, who was supplying it in New York or whatever. And somehow, some way, I got connected with somebody who supplied me with like a 3.5, and I tried it with my wife.
Okay.
And I'm here to say, it is the best sex you've ever had in your life. I never tried MDMA.
Okay. Yep.
I never tried MDMA. People say MDMA, you know, when you're on it, is the best sex ever.
Well, I have to say, I have tried both, and I agree with MDMA. Good. However, there's a lot of trouble getting to the point of climax.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
And not so much with the mushrooms.
Yeah, mushroom. Yeah, as you know, mushrooms, like, you know, as you're doing the do.
Yeah.
As you're doing the do, everything feels you feel so relaxed. The you know, the touching and feeling feels more heightened, and the orgasm is actually very, very heightened. It's actually amazing.
I would agree. And I think it's about, you know, I feel with the mushrooms, they really just increase all of our senses.
Yeah.
But question for you. So how did you guys kind of pinpoint your dose? Because isn't that kind of like teetering on, let's not have, you know, you want to be on the lighter side.
Yeah.
So you're not.
I don't know. You know what? Because, well, at the time, I did my research and knowing like what dose to take. So we didn't take the whole 3.5 at the time.
Okay.
And depending on the strand, you know, some strands are a lot, you know, stronger than the others. And so I just erred on the side of caution.
Okay.
I gave my wife a little bit here, and I took a little bit there. And which, by the way, at the time when she tried it, I didn't think anything of it. it didn't taste like nothing to me.
Yeah.
But she said it tastes like dead feet. So she didn't like the taste at all. So she said it tastes like dead feet. I was like, okay,
Oh, wow.
it looked cool to me. But
and then she still wanted to have sex.
Yeah. She wanted to have sex. Listen, and mind you, I believe it was God sent, because during that time period, like, we were contemplating even divorce.
Oh, wow.
So that period, we took a weekend and we just did it. The kids weren't around. We had, that weekend she had just come back because she moved back to Minnesota, but we were finishing moving the stuff that we have remaining at our place there. And, it just, the best way I can describe it is like, when you're on mushrooms, at least for me, the connection that you have with a particular person, you see each other beyond just the physical.
Right.
And they grab onto each other sexually, and you guys come together, and it's more like it was a deep connection at that moment.
Oh, I love that.
Everything felt good. It's like our souls were connected in that very moment.
That's so great. And, I'm a firm believer. And other people, I learned this, I think, from Big Psych, actually. It's this idea that when you're consuming mushrooms, you're going to get exactly what you need. So if you're not able to pinpoint that dose, and it's just, for whatever reason, it just seems that the medicine is there to listen to you and your needs and provide you with what it is that's going to help you kind of move forward or move on from where you were beforehand. So I know that sounds a little woo-woo to everyone, but that is one of the themes I've rolled with. I mean, honestly, for the past 3 years. And, maybe you did need more of like this heavier versus a microdose, because that, I can see like taking more of a substantial dose and just the embrace of somebody, like knowing that you're going to be safe, knowing that you're going to be okay. And then the other things happen from there.
For sure. Because essentially I was just taking it because of the fact that it made me, when I first took it, it made me feel good. I was out of this rut that I was in for days on end. Like, I'm talking about, like, I was in a rut where I wouldn't even leave my bed unless I wanted to go do bodily functions or take a shower. You know what I mean? And so for me, having to enjoy this moment with my wife, having to take it and bringing us together, it was like, man, this feels amazing. I see why Johns Hopkins Hospital has been doing researches on it and things of that nature. And in that moment in time, I was like, man, nothing else mattered but just you and I. Let's build on this. And it helped us. It helped our marriage and to build off of it and become better.
Wow. It has been kind of a common thing I've said on this podcast is I do kind of wish that I was more privy to psilocybin or mushrooms and other plant medicines and psychedelics during my marriage, because it was just so easy to escape, mask, reach for wine, not deal, not, and I think that with mushrooms, it really just helps to change your perspective. I mean, sex or no sex, it really gives you a new way to look at things and come about conversation and meet people halfway versus me versus you and all this.
It allows you to get an open mind about everything in your circle, in your whole dome, I call it my dome, and my dome that I'm in, right? It forces me to deal with it head on. Like, another story is that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2011.
Wow.
With MS. And the things that I had gone through during, even up to now, no medication was really working for me. I was doing injections, interferon injections, and a pill by the name of Tecfidera. It didn't work for me. Actually, at one point, I couldn't even walk.
Wow.
That's how much it was debilitating for me. And so having to try different medication and then work, and then now doing mushrooms and seeing the benefits of it while doing a medication that actually works now, I've seen, it's been a huge help to me from a medicinal standpoint. So I say all this to say that, thank God, mushroom found me. I didn't say I found mushroom, but mushroom found me that day at that party.
That's exactly how I feel too. I feel, it was something that was kind of thrown in front of me. And I can't describe it anything beyond that. It wasn't like I was sitting here itching to have some mushrooms. But before I knew it, I was able to quit drinking, and I'm sure everybody knows all
Yeah.
about me, but I love so yeah, I'm interested to hear. So what was did you and your wife have very similar experiences?
Um,
How did she feel? And was this one of her first?
that was her first time.
Wow, okay.
This was my second time at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because I tried it at that party. I was like, we got to try this. Like, this is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And she was like, what are you talking about? Like, mushroom. And you got to, and let me also say this. When it comes to mushrooms, when it comes to the African American community, right, the Black community, we've always been told like, nah, this shit is gonna make you look crazy. It's gonna drive you to do some stupid things. It's gonna drive you out your mind.
Yeah.
That is not the case whatsoever. That's not the case whatsoever. It's not gonna make you do crazy things. In fact, it's gonna enlighten you to want to be a better version of yourself. That's number one. And so that's why I was so hesitant at the party when the girl asked me, I was like, nah, I want to be out of my mind, all this kind of stuff. But it's actually helped her and I from a mental standpoint. What she experienced was she was more relaxed.
Okay.
You know, she was more herself. She was open. You know, she was just, all her inhibitions just was released at that point in time.
Gotcha.
Now we'll talk about a different time where she's tried it and she said she had a bad trip. I've never had a bad trip.
Okay.
Ever. I've never had a bad trip. So I don't know. I don't even know what that feels like or look like. Did you have you?
You know, not really, because I've learned, okay, here's what I like to say. I have, not all of my trips are rainbows and unicorns and, you know, pure bliss.
Yeah.
There are times, and this is the number one thing that I believe about mushrooms, is they show us our truth. They show us what we need to see in order to move forward. So yes, I, with larger doses, have easily had to revisit, not easily, but they are easily brought to my attention, some past traumas, situations, discussions, just things that make me uncomfortable, right? But I am choosing to look at that time and that experience as something I can glean from and grow from. It's like you have to acknowledge it happened. You have to give yourself grace. And then the mushrooms give you like this warm, gentle little hug and make you feel like you're going to be okay. But I think that's the whole point. We have so many things that happen to us. Tiny T trauma, big T trauma. You shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Well, what happens if you're not able to access some of that and deal and move?
It'll come up in maladaptive ways.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good word. Good word. But I feel that, I think that's when people are talking about bad trips, you know, it's hard for me to understand that, because we also use the word informational trips, because even though it's not necessarily pleasant and perfect, it's information that you're learning about yourself to help you in this process, because it's all about self-discovery. And, you know, so for me, we like to coin it, or I say, an informative trip versus a bad trip.
True.
Did she give you more information about what she had maybe experienced?
I just know during that time period, she was going through some things from a family standpoint, and it kind of, knowing her, everything that she probably was suppressing came out in that very moment that she had her bad trip. You know what I mean? So it gave her a little clarity on how she should move going forward with whatever dilemma she was handling at that point in time. And and now she's better. But ultimately, I know for me, my journey with this started with that. Right. And so for me, then I was like, man, I got to look more into it. So we moved back here, and I'm like, where can I find some? Right. And it's very difficult to find some. And so I knew a guy who connected me with a guy here who I bought some from. And for some reason, he's no longer here. He just fell off the face of the planet. So I couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, I was making it for myself. Well, I wasn't making it for myself. So my wife couldn't eat the actual mushroom because it tastes like feet. Dead feet, as she said.
And by the way, I just want to interject. I know why she had a bad trip.
Why?
Because she wasn't in bed with you.
Well, hey, don't let me tell it. Don't let me tell it, man. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, from going from that Yeah, just my hypothesis. But,
maybe.
So you move here and you're like, where can I get some of this magic medicine?
Yep.
And hard to find.
It's hard to find, especially with the type of people that so a lot of the people that I knew here when I left here weren't necessarily here, but a lot of people were still here also. And so I got in contact with a good friend of mine who got me connected with another guy.
Okay.
And I bought some from him. And I was taking it, but I also wanted my wife to take it as well. And I said, what's the best way to how could she take it without tasting like dead feet? So what I decided to do, I was looking up ways and I saw that people kind of make it into like chocolates or, So I tried to actually duplicate what the girl in New York did.
Wow.
And my first several times of doing it, there was through trial and error. I was just messing around and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
And I started to make my own chocolate recipe, and the way that I did it, she was like, "This is amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, this is dope." Because either way, I didn't care because I would eat the mushroom as is.
Yeah.
And so as I did it, that guy, I couldn't get more. He just fell off the face of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wonder what happened to him.
Me too. I seriously, I wonder to this day what happened to him. But all of a sudden, he's gone. But and I said to myself, in order for me to, I don't want to keep buying from somebody. How about I teach myself how to grow mushrooms?
Sure.
So I went on YouTube. I saw a guy by the name of the Rookie Mycologist. Shout out to Rookie. If you're hearing this, man, shout out to you, brother. You helped me a lot. You already know I messaged you and stuff. But he was teaching me, because his whole channel was geared towards teaching himself how to grow mushrooms. And through there, he's also teaching other people.
Oh, okay.
I was like, damn, that's pretty damn dope. Because he had another channel. He had a 420 channel that he's had good 420 eats, where he was teaching people based on, because he's a 420 grower, of how to make certain products from 420 product. From the leaf, from the plant. And so I learned from him how to grow. And I said, let me try this myself. And that was also the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow.
And through his messaging, his live chats, he will always say like, this YouTube thing changed my life. He said, this YouTube shit changed my life. He, from a monetary standpoint, from a life standpoint, he said, man, I was always broke. And I came on YouTube teaching myself how to grow mushrooms. And there were people that was giving them information on how to do better, how to be better. And it just took off from there. And I said the same thing. I said, man, why don't I do the same thing? But do it with a little twist. And so I started the channel, and it's been great ever since. Yeah.
That's amazing. And remind us again,
at Mushroom Sauce TV. You can find me at Mushroom Sauce TV on YouTube, TikTok, as well as Instagram. I'm always on there.
Love it. And I did check out your channel a bit.
Yeah.
And you do show kind of growing, right?
Yeah. I go step by step on how to actually grow mushrooms.
Okay.
People think this is very difficult. It is difficult. I will not lie to you. It's difficult, but I try to make it as simple as possible.
Okay.
For the regular Joe like you and I to go ahead and be able to grow it in your house on a small budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, because things are relatively expensive. You don't need a big elaborate setup.
Right. No lab or nothing. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What I will say, you do need a clean environment.
Okay. Well, that's good to
you know. What I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do any cultivating of functional mushrooms?
Yeah, absolutely. Gourmet mushrooms.
Wow.
Like lion's mane, shiitake, reishi, those things, medicinal mushrooms like that as well. I've actually, so I started doing that first.
Okay.
And then later on, the processes isn't any different.
It isn't?
No, it's not that much different.
Okay.
It's not that much different. The process is still the same. You need to first inoculate grains with what's either called spores or liquid culture.
Okay.
Spores is the actual, how I like to put it, it's like the actual seed that makes mushroom grow. And people can people can put it into a liquid broth to make it a liquid culture, which the mycelium would then grow, and that's what makes the mushroom grow eventually.
Okay.
So the process can take anywhere between 0 to 60 days. It should. It takes about 60 days for the whole process to be completed.
Okay.
Yeah, from start to finish.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think, aren't they called flushes? So
Yep.
you'll have your first kind of growth.
Yep, that's your flush.
Your
Yep.
flush?
Yep. Yep.
And
yep.
then how many flush?
See, you know.
A little bit. But
You
my
know.
goal, I mean, I would love to grow. I mean, why not?
You're not, yeah.
But I have some troubles keeping my succulents alive. So, and considering that mushrooms are like almost as much animal as they are plant,
Yeah.
I gotta make sure I'm on top of
yeah.
But that's why we're here, and you can help me maybe, and I
Yeah.
can watch your channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you said something that is absolutely correct. It's more like animal than it is plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a plant.
Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I truly believe that there's certain food that you eat. Well, after you eat it, you feel shitty about yourself. You feel lethargic. You don't feel well. You know what I mean? Like, it may cause cancer. Or if you eat a lot of red meat, cause gout. Right?
Yeah.
That is because it's more like an animal. I mean, it also, a lot of the certain types of mushrooms, I truly believe they have different personalities.
Yes. Okay.
That's why certain mushrooms make you feel a different way.
Right.
So for me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask you, can you talk about maybe some strains or varieties that make you feel a certain way and some that make you feel other ways?
Well, I will preface my statement by saying it's different from person to person.
Yes.
The strains are different in terms of how it makes you feel. If we're talking about psychedelic, because this is a psychedelic show, if we're talking about psychedelics, I think that for me, when it comes to like, there's a strain that's called Hulata.
Okay.
A Hulata strain that I truly believe that is one that is, all of them are very introspective. Let me just say that. It's very introspective. It's very, it makes you think deeply about the things that you're probably going through at the time. It's kind of like marijuana strains like indica or whatever, sativa. Some gives you more energy than others. Some makes you go to sleep. Some makes you stay up at night. Majority of the mushroom strains that I've dealt with, from my perspective, has always kept me up at night, and it kept me introspective in the things that I want to think about. I did do a large dose one night, and my father, who had passed away, came down and spoke to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And him and I had before his death, had a very tumultuous relationship.
Okay.
So we didn't end on good terms. We actually, when he passed away, we weren't talking.
Okay.
So I held on to a lot of the guilt and the grief from that for years, for like 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so.
Well, how profound. And would that just a little life-changing for you, don't you think? I mean, I've had similar experiences, which I can't stop talking about.
Yeah. No, it is. For real, man. It's like, he came down and talked to me. And in that time period, I was working at a company in which I was just unhappy about. And this is when I was starting the growing and stuff like that. He said, whatever you're doing, I'm very proud of you.
Oh, wow.
I was crying. Like I couldn't stop crying. And it was more so tears of joy.
Yeah.
That I was crying. And I'm like, I'm at peace finally about the situation that occurred with me and my father.
Oh, wow.
And so it helped me through that process. And just recently, like I told you off camera, is that my brother passed away and having to deal with that. And mushrooms has helped me dealt with that too.
Wow.
So
that's so great. I mean, to be able to say that something is helping you after something, so horrible.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate just that sentiment from you and the positivity behind it, because I do feel, I mean, personally, and hopefully the majority of people who have had experience with psilocybin mushrooms or even functional mushrooms, I think it is just this general sense of overall well-being,
Yeah.
feel good, positivity, keep your chin up, no
Yeah.
matter how fucked up the world is during the pandemic, you
Yep.
know. So it's so hopeful for me because I think in these days and times, there's so many of us that are so sick and just
Yep.
looking to feel just a little bit better.
Yep.
And it's, you know, can go on and on, but it's not the magic bullet. You got to be willing to and wanting to
Yep.
change, and just trust the medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, from people watching your channel, they know the history in regards to like the ancient civilization has been doing this for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why the government have scheduled it, have found it illegal and have it as Schedule 1 drug.
Yeah.
For a reason, right? But it so happened that everything else that's legal that's bad for us are man-made and synthetic, to where, you know,
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But I'm thankful for it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
No, for sure. No, for sure. I mean, it is definitely something in which I think that once we, as a country, we decide that this is going to help people more than it hurts people, we can start to have this conversation where, okay, we can start to heal, you know, the mental health issues that's going on in today's society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, question for you: you said you were the first son born here in America.
First child in my family born in America.
Where was everyone else born?
My parents were born in Gambia, West Africa.
Okay.
Yep. They migrated here in the late 70s, early 80s.
Do you know any history or knowledge, or is there any conversation that you're aware of psychedelics, psilocybin, mushrooms being used in those parts? Or
oh yeah, you know, and especially in West Africa, like a lot of in the countries there, they grow in the tropical environment in which they reside in, and they do use it for different ceremonial purposes and things of that nature. They do
forever, right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
And then, but still, do you think it was because of America, the DARE program, that made you like your brain's gonna fry, like that
I remember that commercial. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Because that's so sad to me. If you're coming from, you know, this country that celebrates or has ceremonies and uses it as a medicine, as a healing modality for its people, but it's just another American, you know, thing that, it was really that war on drugs that kind of lumped all of these plant medicines together as the worst.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and prescribe, you know, Adderall or whatever. But yeah, it's part of the journey, right? I mean, I'm excited to be here in Minneapolis because we have the executive order in place by Mayor Fry. And then we've got Governor Walz, a VP maybe, who put together the psychedelic task force.
That is amazing.
And I feel like we are a little bit on top of it compared to Alabama.
No, we're definitely on top of it compared to other areas of the United States. I think because of the stigma that exists with psychedelics, once people do their research, they'll understand the benefits truly and how it would definitely help them. And so I question whether or not, obviously there are special interest groups with I don't want to get too political, but from big pharma wanting their hands to be on this, how much does it affect us not being able to legally use or be able to make products and sell it the way that we should?
Yeah, you know, I had a recent, I have been working with people, just a small handful, to sit with them if they need me as a guide during their larger dose situations. And what's so funny to me is, you know, I'm thinking about how does this work if it does become legal? And if it becomes legal, that's obviously going to be probably a medical model. That's what we've got like in Portland, Oregon. And if you look at the situation and how you're set up to do a large dose journey in a medical model, it's a very clinical situation, right? You're in a bed, you're inside, you're laying down. I find, for me personally, my trips and my journeys are so much more profound when I can experience a little bit of that clinical side, but then step outside where it all kind of comes full circle. I'm amongst nature, the plants, the sun, the things that made them, the plants happen, or the fungi. So it's like, yeah, I start to question, I think in some medical models over in Europe, or I don't know where exactly, but they're using synthetic psilocybin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of just such like a, not organic.
Yeah.
But we're trying to replicate an organic medicine.
Don't you think that's funny you think that's funny?
A little backwards in my mind.
Yeah.
So, and then I heard at one point there was some company trying to actually patent the exact way the psilocybin or medicine is administered. Like you have to have like maybe this type of chair and this type of music and this type of
really.
Yeah, it's like
that's interesting. That's very interesting.
I get excited about legalization, but I'm even more excited about decriminalization.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Everything you have to make people feel like what they're doing is wrong in order for it to for things to work from a monetary standpoint from big companies.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I question again how much big pharma has a hand in what we're going through right now, or in general. To say, like, for example, there's Adderall. Adderall is legal, but Adderall has an element of
methamphetamine.
Correct.
Yes.
Which is illegal.
Yeah, I love it. I've been, just kind of scoping out other mushroom lover and believers.
Yep.
There's, I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Austin. He's huge in this space.
Yep.
And he's got like Third Wave, which is a whole program where you can go through. It's like a 12-week program to get, certified and being a guide and whatnot. And you learn all sorts of things.
Sure.
He is a part of, it's called the Microdosing Collective.
Okay.
And their whole mission is like, hey, the research is out there. This stuff is safe if it's used responsibly and intentionally.
Yep.
And we're here to educate, and we're here, and it should be legal, like on this microdosing level, right?
Right.
And something feels good about that. Like I feel like if we can, they've done a lot with like, policy. They're out in California. But if we can start getting just people to see when we're talking about microdosing, it's literally, come on, it's, but we'd have to hold people accountable to not be whatever shoving more down their throats. But if they do, that's what they need. I don't know. But that is my hope, that we can get to this point where microdosing especially is normalized.
Yeah.
And it is the first option rather than some of these heavy pharmaceuticals. So yeah, these are, we can talk about this stuff all day long, but at the end of the day, like, as long as, my number 2 rule is if it's used intentionally and responsibly, it's pretty damn safe.
Yeah.
And
it is.
Yeah.
It's safer. It's to me. So I'm not like I said, I've never been a person who's, I've been a drug user, or I don't even drink alcohol.
Good for you.
But what I will say is this, anything that is grown naturally, that you can grow out of your home, and it'll help you deal with PTSD, depression, or anxiety, why not use it? Yeah. It's not going to amp you up to hurt somebody. That's in fact, it does the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you discover yourself and who you are to be the best version of yourself.
Thank you. I know.
Yeah.
I want to kind of ask you real quick about that. So how long, so the first time you're out in New York, you go to this party in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn. Yep. Brooklyn.
You had some mushroom chocolate.
Yep.
And it was that night where you're like, wow.
This is amazing.
And it was it kind of like just this overall good feeling? Were you laughing?
Oh, I couldn't stop laughing.
Okay.
I couldn't stop laughing, man.
Yeah.
You talk about a guy, man, I hadn't smiled in days.
Oh, I see.
Based on what I was going through.
Okay. because of the
Well,
pandemic.
yeah, the
Okay.
pandemic and the loss of my business, loss of my business at the time, and what I was going through. Uh, Again, I didn't leave my bed for days, except
Mm,
But then I'm in front of people, laughing,
yeah,
joking, and just like crying laughter, tears of
got
joy, and
you.
stuff like that. Like it was absolutely amazing, man.
Okay. And then was it just through further exploration
Mhm.
that you kind of were like, okay, wow, I am self-discovering and learning this about me, or was that kind of from the very get-go?
So I didn't. So I've always been scared to take a whole 3.5,
Okay.
3.5,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I was always scared to take it. I was just like, man, I just like it because the way it makes me feel. I'm
Mm,
happy about me,
sure.
and from a psychological standpoint, I'm no longer going through this depression.
Mm,
And so, finally, one day, that's when I decided that you know what, I'm going to take a large dose,
yeah.
the
Good.
3.5. And then because I was doing research on it, and I heard people talk about their self-discovery,
Okay.
and I wanted to get myself to a place where I want to be better than what I was, because I felt like I haven't reached my potential.
Gotcha.
And one of the other things, before I forget, the benefits that I get from it,
Hmm.
my creative juices flows into a space that I wouldn't normally would if I wasn't taking it.
Wow.
Yeah, I started to think about ideas that I never thought about. As a matter of fact, truth be told, like, you know, how I would do my channel all stem from my use of mushroom itself.
I
So,
love it.
yeah,
I mean, so true. Look at, we've got these billionaires and people who are admitting, or the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous AA was tripping on LSD, coming up with this very
yeah,
profound concept of how we can have people abstain from alcohol and every other substance, even though
yeah, yeah,
but it's, yeah, I think that the creative boost it provides, again, it's just that it's shifting perspective
yeah,
and opening opportunities, and
yeah.
yeah, things to see.
It just opens up a different part of your brain that, and for me, for a long period of time, I felt like it was dormant.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And
probably though, yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah.
seriously,
Hmm.
it allowed me entrance into a point, a place in my brain where I never gained access to. And
Mm,
so at that point, I was like, man, what else can I find out what's
hmm.
going on in here? What else? What other ideas do I have
Right.
that I can probably put into motion? And so, yeah, man, it was absolutely godsend.
Well, good. I knew there was a reason that we needed to connect,
Yeah,
because it's, for me, I just get so excited, like running into my people. Like I feel like we speak the same language.
yeah.
You I mean, we're
I'm part of your.
believers.
I'm part of
Yeah.
your tribe. We part of the same tribe. You know what I mean? No matter what color we are, we part of the
Yes.
same tribe. So
The mushroom tribe. Yes.
yeah,
Um, so I just can't thank you enough for coming here and sharing your story. It always takes some vulnerability to explain, here's where I was, here's where I am,
yeah,
and just being open and honest about something that's profoundly helped you, and being okay to say it out loud. I love that.
yeah. Thank you. I thank you for having me. What I will say is this: is that like this, if anything, with this mushroom journey of mine allowed me to do is allowed me to be able to connect with people on a wavelength that typically uh, I wouldn't have been able to at some point.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it allowed me to. It's. I believe it's the gift that gives on giving.
I believe the mushrooms help us find
Yeah.
our people, or they're the stepping stones
Yeah.
to, I know. So that's a common theme for me. It's like, again, for me, it's trust in the medicine,
Yep.
that it's always doing good for me.
Yep.
And I don't really have to look too hard, or, you know, when I know I'm in alignment
Hmm.
with what I'm so passionate about,
Yep. Yep.
then the medicine, along with all the other mindful practices and things, really help me easily get, places where I wouldn't be getting without. I
No, for
mean,
sure.
yeah, and I was a big drunk for many years, and if I wouldn't have found the medicine, I would, that would be a very interesting, different story of where it'd be today. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
So do you continue to like microdose to help you deal with the addictive piece, or like? tell me a little bit about that. I know I'm not interviewing you, you're interviewing
Yeah,
me,
well,
but
I love it. Thank you. I just, yeah, my, I started out microdosing,
Mhm.
and I kind of was just realizing, okay, I feel good. I mean,
Yeah,
similar. I specifically microdosed intentionally to quit drinking. Like I
yeah,
literally, my intention was, I want to quit drinking, help me to feel normal. And it wasn't too long after where I was like, literally the mushrooms were telling me like, Maggie, you don't need alcohol forever. Use us, essentially.
yeah.
So the number one concern from my family was like, oh, well, now you're just addicted to mushrooms. And
Like you like cross addiction. They call it,
yeah,
and like
yeah,
say,
yeah.
you're doing cross
You
addiction.
get rid of alcohol, but now you're tripping out on mushrooms. And I said, true, but I don't think it works that way. You can't be physically addicted to, especially psilocybin, and psilocybin is so quick to grow a tolerance. So you literally cannot
Yeah, you
treat
can't be
tripping
addicted.
multiple days. So I just knew something good. And like you, was happening. Like you, I, did a lot of research. And a huge catalyst for me was looking at what alcohol was doing to my brain.
Yeah,
And then looking into some of those Johns Hopkins studies, all of these, there's showing brains where there's reconnection happening, neuroplasticity.
neuroplasticity.
All
Yep,
of my words I'm
yep.
losing at the
No, it's
moment, but
okay. It's
I
okay.
was seeing that how healthy, and not just psychedelics, functional mushrooms such as lion's mane,
Yep. Oh, yep.
are so healthy for our brains. So I just kept exploring, and yes, I was never too scared to do the 3.5. But I eventually got to that point, and I did do more of a hero's journey later on, which were some of the most profound experiences in my life.
Wow.
I've talked about it on the show, but I connected with my ancestors or my grandparents,
Yeah.
and I could talk to you about it for 6 hours. But essentially, what I gleaned from that was just an overall sense. I had so much fear around. I always just thought I was going to, sounds terrible, but die especially when I was drinking heavily. We have no cancer in my family. It's all heart disease.
Yeah.
So it was just this, I was running around 24/7 in fight or flight.
Yeah.
I was having all this anxiety from drinking. I was having to check my blood pressure, my pulse, all of these things. And yeah, just months after not drinking and experimenting with more medicine, it was this overall just feeling of, Maggie, you got it. Like, you're healthy now. We are all one.
Yep.
This wholeness feeling, all of
Yep.
the things that we feel and sense from the mushrooms. And yes, I've just been able to carry that. I'm still reeling from some of these experiences, which
Yeah.
were over a year ago or
Yeah.
two. And yeah, I do also, from the podcast, I've learned or I've connected with so many amazing people.
Yep.
But yeah, there's other plant medicines that I really, really enjoy.
Mhm.
One being San Pedro Huachuma.
Okay.
It's much more mild. We can talk all
Yeah.
about that. But for me, it was a very spiritual plant medicine. I think that psilocybin is spiritual, but depending on the strain or
Yeah.
variety.
Yep.
So you've got your varieties, which are a lot more therapeutic.
Yep.
And then you've got the lighter, brighter, not so mental
Yeah.
varieties.
No, yeah, I gotta have the mushrooms because I'm a very cerebral person in
Mhm.
general. And so I believe, and I'm not saying that the other ones don't, but I have to have like mushrooms. Like for me.
Mushies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, man. It's amazing. Like I'm like the people that don't in my community, like our community specifically need to have psychedelic mushrooms.
Yes.
We need it. Like wholeheartedly. We've gone through so much trauma in our lifetime. Even beyond our ancestors and what they've been through in this country 400 years ago and things of that nature. It's just like we as a people need mushrooms more than any other people, in my opinion. So I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Are you familiar with that documentary that came to town? It's called The Table of Our Own.
Table of Our Own.
Okay.
I was supposed to go there. Shout out to you, Cam, man. I apologize. You know what I was going through around that time period, but yeah, I've been looking for it and how to view it. But from what I do know, based on the documentary, is how we as Black people are, basically shelved out.
Basically, there's so many disparities and
Yeah.
around accessibility and but yeah, Cam, Big Psych,
Yep.
my buddy, who was on here
Yep.
just right before that was happening,
Yep.
promoting it. But
Yep.
definitely should see it. And
I should.
Just a really good, I can see you kind of taking that and helping,
No, I would love to. I would love to.
People and
yeah, man.
But I couldn't help not mention that because it is such a it is a thing, and it's important to have the hard conversations and acknowledge that. So I wanted to make sure you had it in your noggin.
I will. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, when I appreciate being here, I'm glad you have me on. I believe this. Nothing happens by accident. Everything happens by faith, and I appreciate you reaching out. And yeah.
Well, likewise, Sauce B, and
Yes.
I hope to see more of you, more of your YouTube channel, and we'll have all the links below in the description. But this has been a blast.
Yeah.
Had so much fun.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank
All
you
right.
for having me.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Peace.
Thank you for joining the journey. You can tune in to Minds on Mushrooms on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.